Hi everybody, it's Claire back with another art journal video, and this is a Christmassy project for Scrap FX. So for a change, I'm not journaling in the Scrap FX junk craft journal. I am playing in the large Dina Wakley craft journal, and as you can see I'm just using some clear gesso, a little bit too much clear gesso, but as you know, these pages in the large craft journal are quite thirsty, so it did eventually sink in. I did have to use my heat tool on it to dry it off. So I'm going to be creating a page with Christmas sort of baubles on it, and I am just painting the back of these different circles on transparencies from Scrap FX. So the ones that I've used are scribble circle words, ring words, and circle pattern transparencies. I've cut out some of the ones that I wanted to use, and then I've also cut out some of the circles from the Daphne Dot collage paper designed by Michelle Logan. So the colours that I'm using are magenta and orchid, and these do just paint on quite nicely. This is peacock as well, paint on quite nicely to the back of the transparencies, which means you can still see the print that's on them. You can see it through the colour. So once I'd added the paint that I wanted onto those, I'm then going into the journal. I've got quite a wet brush, as you can see, and I'm using some turquoise, and I'm wanting to get some colour just across the centre of the page to start off with, just so that that kind of brings a little bit of interest to the centre of the page. So I did need to re-wet my brush again because the clear gesso is quite grainy and it did kind of soak up a lot of the moisture. But yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit more paint just to kind of spread that paint out a bit. You can see I'm using quite loose paint strokes. I quite like the fact that you can see the brush strokes in the background. So now I'm going to go in and add some stenciling, and the three stencils I'm going to use are the circles in circles, the mesh stencil, and the vision stencil as well. So going in with the same colours, I'm starting off with peacock. I'm trying not to have too much paint on my blending tool, so I have kind of smooshed, I don't know what the word is really, smooshed a bit of paint off on the glass mat before I've gone in through the stencil, because I don't want the colours to be too dark. I want to create quite an interesting layered background where the colours just work nicely together, but they don't detract from the focal points. I mean, sometimes my backgrounds are quite crazy and busy and colourful, and that's okay. It still works, but because I wanted the baubles to be the focal point really and to really sing, so I wanted this background to be pretty, but without being too dark anywhere. So then to push it back a bit, I'm going in with carnation, and again just trying to rub a bit of that paint off. But as you'll notice, it's like, oh my gosh, it's gone on really quite dark. So one thing you can do while it's wet is just lightly rub your blending tool over, and it will just push that back a little bit. So this is the mesh stencil. So I'm just going in and layering a bit more stenciling on my page too. I'm just overlapping some of the initial stenciling that I've already done. This just kind of helps it all to work together when you connect your stenciling together. It means that, yeah, nothing's kind of left hanging there on its own. And you can see here that I've gone in at both sides. Normally I have a rule where I do kind of 3 areas of stenciling, but the page didn't really feel very balanced without something at either edge, so I then went back in and added something at the edges too. And then here I have just mixed a bit of peacock with some of the carnation and just made another lovely colour, which of course works really well on the page because it's just a mix of the colours that I've already used. So this is starting to look how I wanted it to, really, with just these nice pale colours in the background, and just building up those layers of interest. I think this vision stencil is one of my favourite ones with the text on from Scrap FX. So then I started to add some more colours onto the back of these transparencies. So this is the round to square stencil, And you can see here I've just gone in with some permanent red violet light from Amsterdam acrylic, and you can kind of see that through, but only a little bit. So that works quite well, just to add another layer of interest to those baubles, and just trying them against the background to make sure that it's kind of working how I wanted it to. And again, just going in using the same stencil just to create some interest. So then, because the words had kind of got a little bit lost, I'm just going in with my Posca pen and outlining those letters, just to pull those forwards, I guess, a little bit really. When I saw these circles and I was thinking about doing a Christmassy page for December, I just kind of thought these worked perfectly as Christmas baubles. And I just love the kind of messages that they've got on them as well. So using the white pen kind of acts as a little bit of a contrast with the black of the print on the circles. And I've not really got any white on my page yet, although I do go in a little bit and add some splatters. So here I'm using some permanent red violet light, watering it down just so that I can add some splatters onto my page. So I'm going in with this pink because there are pink in the baubles, and also it acts as a really nice contrast with the colours that are already down on the page. So because I used the carnation, which is a really pale pink, one of Dina's pastel colours, there is an element of pink on there, and then I just felt that it needed a little bit of brightness, so I went in with some white and again just added some more splatters. I don't know, can you actually have too many splatters? I don't really know, don't think so. So obviously this needed a really good dry before I could do any more, so I did use my heat tool to dry that really well. And then I am using some of Dina's ultra thick gel medium just to stick these baubles in place. So first of all, I just go in and kind of audition where I want them to go, just so that I can make sure that my page feels balanced and that it's going to look right once I've stuck them in place. I don't often overthink like this, but I think because I knew they were going to be hanging down from the top of the page, I wanted to make sure that they would kind of work well together. So here I'm just using the ultra thick gel medium to stick them in place and trying to get them in position so that they were spread out nicely and all at different heights and not all kind of squished together. So here I'm using some washi tape, and I'm going to be using that to create the strings on my baubles. I decided to go for this lovely thin washi tape. It's got really tiny little stars on, and I felt it worked quite nicely. So I have done other pages where I've created like Christmas baubles, and sometimes it can be really hard to get that straight line from your bauble to the top of your page. This is so easy. I don't know why I've not thought of this before. I'm sure someone else will have done something like this before. But anyway, yes, if you've got some washi tape, what a great way to create that kind of string from the top of your bauble to the top of your page and get a nice straight line. So then I'm just using a Stabilo oil pencil and going round the baubles, and I do water activate it a little bit, and in some places I do lift a bit of it off because I must have pressed on too hard and it went a little bit dark. But actually it kind of just works to outline those shapes quite nicely. I did find a little bit it didn't behave quite as it would normally because of the clear gesso on the page and how grainy it was. I also did some lines down one side of the washi tape just to kind of give that a little bit of a shadow and pull it out from the background a little bit too. I also did some scribbly lines around my baubles just to kind of give those even more of an outline as well. And then I added some circles that I printed using the permanent red violet light in 3 different sized circle shapes. So the quote that I used, rather than going with a kind of traditional Christmassy quote, I found one on the Daphne Dot sheet, why limit happy to an hour? And I just felt it worked perfectly on this page. So there it is, as my Christmassy themed first project for December for Scrap FX. I hope you've enjoyed the video and found some inspiration, and I hope to see you again soon.